Welcome, evil one.
What season is it?
It is spring, O dark one.
Real quick, what month specifically?
March, man of the nether region.
It's March?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Delicious. And, which of these college squads got their tickets punched to the NCAA's big dance this year?
He's looking at me. I haven't got a clue what he's talking about.
Any, Cinderella stories?
What?
Vying for a chance in the Sweet 16?
I think this demon is really into college basketball for some reason.
You guys didn't fill out your brackets?
What have you summoned?
I don't know how this happened.
The game's on here!
They play basketball in college? What about their studies?
Hello, all. Welcome back to What's On Tonight, a podcast with elaborate, quirky, and unpredictable conversations about TV, movies, and more. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
Tonight, we are covering What We Do in the Shadows, Season 6, Episode 7, titled March Madness. Please note, this is a spoiler-filled podcast, so if you haven't seen the episode yet and don't want to be spoiled, no worries, just come back and check us out after you've finished. Miss Mandy, would you please give us the synopsis for this episode?
Yep, Laszlo and Nandor try to exorcise the demon who has possessed their neighbor Shawnee.
Shawnee. Oh, my overall thought is this is a perfect episode because it brings together my favorite things, which are these kooky vampires and college basketball March Madness. If you don't know March Madness, it's the NCAA basketball tournament where brackets are filled out, hearts are broken. It is the definition of madness, and I love how this show used that insanity to make the boys think that Shauna is possessed. And I would, if I had been able to name this episode, I would have called it A Night of Madness with Becky, Eric, and Amy. Eric, if you remember, is Mandy's husband who is obsessed with Kentucky basketball and March Madness, and my friend Amy Davis, who is a Carolina fan and is equally obsessed with March Madness. So we'll talk more about that later. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm going to start rating the episodes from now on based on whatever I notice in the episode. So I'm going to give this episode 4 Jersey Mike subs out of 5.
That was one of my favorite parts of the
It was
movie.
great. What do you think about it?
I definitely recognized my husband in the demon that popped up that they brought in to try to exorcise Sean, and turned out that he was also as obsessed with March Madness as Sean was. And I think that just was brilliant because it does look quite a bit like possession. When, like, I loved how when he was yelling in Sean's ear, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but when the demon is like yelling in Sean's ear and he's just going, "Later, Charmaine," that is so Eric. Like, I literally could drop dead of a heart attack in front of Eric Walker during peak March Madness season, depending on what the game is or what his brackets were looking like. I may have to just wait until the game is over to get to the hospital.
Well, let's get into the episode. The first part of this episode, I'm calling Demons Basketball and Jersey Mikes. So we start, it's a quick scene. It really isn't a big standout, but Laszlo not realizing that one intestine goes before the other size intestine, and Nandor's like, that's the order of intestines.
Yeah.
Just so matter of fact, like that's
Duh.
an everyday conversation. And then him talking about how the monster can't digest corn, and the monster's like, no more cutting.
Yeah, he's like obviously put the intestines in wrong, so he says he's going to have to cut into him, and the monster's just like, "Hey man, no more cutting." And he says, no, I was talking about some other shambolic monstrosity, which is Laszlo using yet another one of my 50-cent words that I love. And shambolic, I had to look it up just to make sure I was correct about this, but it just kind of means what you think it sounds like: shambles, like just confused, junky mess, which is pretty accurate description of that poor monster who's sewn together with body parts of all different races, ethnicities, sizes, genders.
I think that the I won't get into digesting corn, but
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's my problem too. I don't know.
maybe all our intestines are done backwards. I love when they hear the Sean losing his mind and they take off running and Laszlo realizes that it's Sean and he's like, "We're coming, Shawnee!"
Yeah.
And they take flight. Some of the best Nandor Laszlo moments happened in Sean's basement
Yeah.
when Nandor is
When Laszlo's like, I've been here before. He's talking about like seeing possessed people, and Nandor was just real goofy this episode. He's like, "Oh, I thought you meant in Sean's basement."
and the eye contact when he tells Nandor not to make eye contact, and Nandor looks away from Laszlo. He's like, "Not me,
Yeah.
you idiot."
Yeah. The demon.
The demon. I love the background with the beer cans everywhere and the food containers everywhere. I was like, these people, whoever wrote this episode
Has a beef
knows
with March Madness. Either has an addiction to college ball or loves someone who has an addiction to college ball.
right. I love that Nandor's immediate thought is to kill Sean and put him out of his misery.
Several times throughout the episode.
Yeah, I've got it written down every time. But this Nandor's been doing this since day one.
He's had a beef with Sean for a while. He's had some jealousy. He's the Dwight Schrute of the
He is the Dwight. Well, I think Colin Robinson
is actually the Dwight, but in this very
too.
specific way. But you remember that episode where they were in the Pine Barrens with the I think they were chasing the Mothman or something, and that was an episode where Laszlo was really favoring Sean over Nandor, and Nandor was super, super jealous about the whole thing. It turned out that Laszlo was mad at Nandor about something else, but yeah, that they've had a long-standing history of him not thinking Sean is nearly as cool as Laszlo does, in addition to just his disregard for humans and all. I didn't think it was crazy when he was like, later on, but this is just what happened. What about Guillermo? He's saying, humans are just whatever, they're not special. I mean, well, what about
Guillermo's different. Nandor looks at Guillermo as just a normal human.
But I would have brought that up if I were Laszlo and said, "Hey, what about your little pet?"
Yeah, that's a good point.
I like how he described the demon. So they decide they're going to summon a demon because clearly Sean's possessed by the devil or by a demon. He's pale. He's sweaty. He's like, his clothes are disgusting. He's farting. And they get there and they're talking about, what was it? And he said that he was losing his intestines and then his just
life force.
Yeah. And then he just lets out this huge fart. He looks super disgusting. So they're going to summon the demon, and I love how Nandor just says, basically, he's just like a red guy, sometimes with horns, sometimes with not.
I loved it when they did their switch over to their talking heads and they discuss demon possession and how humans often confuse our emotions with possession. And I will, from now on, when I hit seasonal depression, which usually happens to me during the deepest parts of winter, I will let you know from now on, I am possessed.
By the frost ghouls. The frost ghouls have poisoned your soul.
And it's given me the winter blahs. That was wonderful.
It's like the opposite of what, modern medicine tells us, because back in the day, people did often confuse mental illness with demon possession. And Laszlo's just letting us know, no, they got it right. You guys are demon possessed. It's not your wacky brains. It's because you've got a demon in you.
It makes sense.
And being the man of science that he is, I trust him.
Yeah. I have a note on that when we get to the hospital.
Yeah.
I love Charmaine getting some time in this episode, and her screaming in the background is what I imagine it's like for you and Amy's wife, Kate, when you guys are glued to the television and they won't listen to y'all. And she's like, I'm going to Diane's. Be like, Eric, I'm going to Becky's.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go to your house because it'd just be more the same.
Oh, that's true. You would walk, but I would talk to you though.
Yeah, I feel like that would be one of those, I love you, so I'm being polite and listening to what you're saying, but if you don't shut up in the next 5 minutes, you're going to see a red demon come out. Like, you do think you have a longer span before you're going to snap, but I definitely feel like that would be.
You're right. I might not be the best house to come to. Fair enough.
I just, go dive back into my books during the Munch Bar. And I have two of them that live with me. Jackson Walker is at least as bad as his father about all sports, period, especially UK basketball. So I have two of them, and they're screaming and gyrating and throwing their body on the ground and flopping around like they are possessed by literal demons. Grown men, 6'2" boys in there just flopping around like dead fish.
Amy's awful too. I had her over once to watch Carolina and Duke play, and she made a joke about losing remotes in the TVs. And then this was a game that Duke won, and she was going to hurl my remote at my television. And I'm like, no, we don't do that. So I got her a Nerf ball, and I put remote numbers on it and volume up and down. And I was like, use this when you feel like throwing the remote at your television.
That's very funny to me because I don't know Amy as well, but she has always struck me as being far sweeter than either my son or my husband. So it's harder for me to imagine her getting so passionate that she's getting ready to throw a remote.
Well, when you think of Amy Davis watching any sports, picture the Red Demon.
But you know what? He was actually pretty chill.
He was pretty chill. It was,
much more
Sean
chill
that
than
was
Sean.
crazy.
But let's get into the demon. And I think this is a good time to get into the demon. So the demon comes up from hell. The guide helps to get the demon up.
But she's tired.
She's very tired. I know we don't want to overlap here because I know we're probably going to talk a little bit about Nandor and his crush on the guide at a later point down here.
I have it all in this part right
in
here.
this part. Okay,
Yeah.
so Nandor is going back to he's got his crush on the guide. The guide they've called her over to help him summon a demon so that they can save Shawnee from his possession. And she's exhausted because she's been helping Jerry try to take over North America for the vampires.
More like her underwear is what Jerry's trying to take over, according to Nandor.
Nandor is very jealous. He is not smooth at all, still not quick with it, which is crazy because out of all the vampires, Nandor is, well, I mean, under the Najin, Nandor is a pretty handsome guy, but he has no game.
None.
Whatsoever. So she doesn't even pick up that he's trying to hit on her. She's just tired from having to do double duty here, trying to help Jerry with his quest and these guys to summon their demon.
It's so cute when Nandor says, what, are you guys like boyfriend and girlfriend now? Or friends with benefits? That's what I'm hearing anyway.
But that's what I'm hearing. Like on the streets, everybody's talking about
everybody's
the guide
talking
and
about
Jerry.
the guide and Jerry. They want to know what's up.
But so the demon that comes up, he's actually a pretty chill guy. He's real into college basketball. He too is possessed with March Madness. But did you recognize him?
John,
the actor,
Glazer.
John Glazer. Who was he, Becky? One of our favorite shows. One of both of our favorite shows.
Oh, I don't know.
Jeremy Jam from Parks and Rec.
Oh my God, that went way over my head. I was thinking about him from the movie that I think, what's his face is hot in, Trainwreck, with Amy Schumer.
Was he in that?
He was in that. He played a character in that.
I will always ever think of him as Jeremy Jam.
I did not even connect that was...
I love the character Jeremy Jam so much. I was so excited. And I thought he was perfect for that because he does that like kind of clueless white guy, role so well. I thought it was perfect casting. I thought he did a really, really good job.
Can't believe I didn't make that connection.
I loved it when they were at the hospital and he was wearing the basketball
hoodie over his giant horn. The doctor comes in and he pulls it closer.
Yeah, his obsession with Gonzaga.
Yeah. Who is this Gonzaga? We'll get to it, but my favorite line of the whole thing was, the demon comes out and he's all excited about March. Once Laszlo tells him it's March, and Laszlo's mad at the guide, and the guide's like, I don't know what happened. And he's talking about, Gonzaga doesn't have a big man. And, they got to box out and do all this stuff. And Nandor, as he realizes the game is on, and he walks over to the window, and Nandor's like, they play ball in college, but what about their study?
I wrote that down. That is literally me. So Eric poor Eric is married to Nandor in this scene because as somebody who could not give two shits about sports in general, and it's always upset me how much college sports means that their studies go by the wayside when they're there. And Eric is just so like, oh, you're just so sweet and naive.
Precious.
And silly about, because these young men are going on to make millions and millions of dollars. Like they don't care about freshman calculus when they've got, millions of dollars in endorsements on the line that they could potentially be making. But that's always my favorite. We've had that argument so many times. So yeah, I very much identified with Nandor there.
I do want to real quick go back to Nandor saying best way to get a demon out of someone is to get a bigger demon to scare the smaller one. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. That sounds very much like the little old lady that swallowed the fly type of thinking right there. Yeah, getting a bigger demon to take on the demon you already have. That's a kind of like starting to smoke crack to get yourself off the booze. I'm not sure that that's really the way you want to go. And it didn't work here.
But this is a man of science, Mandy.
He is.
He knows.
He knows. Yeah, we should trust him. But it did not work here, especially because the demon they summoned mysteriously is also inflicted with March Madness.
Yeah, he just wanted to watch ball with Sean. And that, you mentioned Sean thinking that he was Charmaine yelling in his ear. And then when he actually turns and looks and sees that it is a demon, he's like, only thing he's upset about don't know spoilers.
Yeah, that was you. I saw you twinkling out there with the no spoilers. Yeah,
I don't
see
like
that face.
Spoilers,
and I am bad about them. Yeah, I do understand. But yeah, he was only upset that he spoiled that he was getting a message from the depths of hell that Gonzaga had gone down.
I wrote it down. The message of crisis from the depths of Sports Center, harboring grim news on the fate of Gonzaga. That was great.
I love how they just kept saying, that is a dumb word, Gonzaga.
Well, the thing is, and this was years and years and years ago, Gonzaga was a team that made the tournament that was one, I don't even remember. Amy could tell me, but I don't remember. They were very low ranked. They weren't expected to go anywhere. And they were the Cinderella team that year. And they ended up winning the NCAA tournament. So Gonzaga has become a big, big thing on brackets nowadays. So when he was talking about Purdue, Gonzaga, UConn, all of those teams he mentioned are teams that are big in the NCAA tournament. My favorite mention is, I'm going to skip ahead for just a second because I have to get this out so I don't forget it. But when they're in the hospital, and the demon mentions how they're like, you just go, you can go. And he's like, well, fine, my bracket's busted anyway with the Wildcats losing. And I wrote in my notes, suck it, Eric.
Yeah, he said, with the Wildcats out, I shall join my bracket in hell. And I was so excited to hear that. And I told Eric, I was like, that is my proof. That demon is you. And he said, it could be who is it? Who else is the Wildcats? Is it Kansas?
I knew it. I thought that. I was like, he's going to try to say that's not the Kentucky Wildcats.
Yes,
Eric Walker, if you're listening, they're talking about the Kentucky Wildcats.
You know that it was you. Yeah, I loved that. I thought that was so funny. That may be my favorite line the whole episode.
It's great that Sean collapses and Andor's like, yeah, it's time to kill him. And the guy's like, yeah, you might be right. Or maybe call 911.
Yeah, or call a human ambulance. I don't know, one or the other. And then Nandor says that, when he was the warlord from El Canadar, the right thing to do in situations where you had a warrior that was injured was to take care of his wife. So he's going to take, even though he's like, indifferent to Sean's living or dying, he's going to take care of Charmaine for him. And Charmaine is just kind of sweetly, like he takes the trash out by just taking it and throwing it at the end of the road.
Typical Nandor, and typical that whole trio, or making things a lot worse.
Yeah.
Thinking they're helping, which we'll get to with Colin Robinson later, but really they're just screwing it up. But I think it is hilarious that she thinks this entire documentary is about the fact that Nandor is quote unquote slow.
Winky fingers, he's a slow guy. Yeah. Isn't it what this documentary is about? A slow guy
That made me laugh.
She's a big sport, putting up with all of that. Nandor trying to rub her feet. And he's just like, have you ever done this before? Because instead of rubbing them, he's just flipping them back and forth, kind of bicycling them.
I think that's how Darren feels when I rub his shoulders or something. Because I like a lot of pressure. I like intensity. And so I tend to do that to him. And he's like, ow. The whole Wipeout storyline. Did you see how cute when he was hitting himself in the face with the pillow? And he was like, Wipeout. And she was just, it was right before her talking head where I like Nandor. I think he's slow. It was so cute.
It just showed him slapping himself in the face while they were watching Wipeout, because that's what you do, like humans. That's peak TV, because you take one peek at it and you love it.
He was so proud of that joke.
It was pretty funny. I love that he loved Love Island too. Ava and I watch, I don't watch a lot of reality TV, but Ava and I actually did watch Love Island this season, and I got totally hooked.
You told me about that. I still am not going to watch it, but you're not the only one. A lot of people have gotten into that show that don't normally watch reality TV, so you are not alone.
It is so ridiculous. It's so silly. None of those men are straight. I don't know how they have convinced anyone to put them on television as if they are suitors for straight women, because straight men do not take that good. I'm sorry to generalize, but they don't take care of themselves the way that these guys do. They are buffed and plucked and shined, and it's great. And they are just as catty as the women. It's really peak TV for me. He's not wrong.
I'm going to take your word for it. But I do think it was funny that she's like, Sean's had another heart attack. And he's like, oh, well, we should definitely take care of that. But after Love Island, he's like, I'm not trying to miss. That is me.
That's me.
I could be having the heart attack. And I'd be like, Darren's like, the ambulance is here. And I'm going to need to fit. I got 5 minutes left in this episode. Just let me finish this before we go. I thought it was sweet that he admitted his feelings for the guy to Charmaine during their little cute chat. And she's like, well, have you told her? And he's like, what, did you say something? I will kill you in your sleep. Yeah. And that made me laugh, because it's something you and I have said to each other so many times.
Right.
But he meant it.
Yeah, and I normally don't mean it.
I have meant it a few times when I said it to my significant other.
I've only probably meant it 3 or 4 times when I've said it to you.
Well, I appreciate that.
That's because you don't talk.
And this girl knows how to get away with murder.
I listen to a lot of Dateline. Yes.
Yeah, that's her studies, is watching Dateline and listening to podcasts to know how to cover up.
Yeah, now I'm on Snapped, which is making Eric even more uncomfortable than my obsession with Dateline.
Oh, rightfully so. I'm a little nervous.
When I start talking like the narrator for Snap, that's when he knows it's really gotten out of hand. He'll come in and be like, "Hey, I've got some more dishes from the back room," and then he handed her the dishes as if he didn't know where the soap was himself. And that's when he's like, "Yeah, it's time to put the phone down, maybe. Let's just go watch Pride and Prejudice again or something."
Right, because that makes you want to love a man even more. Eric doesn't know, does he?
He doesn't.
Our sweet boy. We go now. We go bye-bye now. She says that to him, which is going to take us to the gym. Or do you want to talk more about when they get to the hospital?
No, I think we covered all of that. Then Nandor decides that he hears that Sean's had an infarction, which is not fuck Sean.
Did he say fuck Sean? He said it again. Laszlo's greatest moment in this episode is when the doctor comes in and he's like, oh, my fellow man of science. And he proceeds to tell the doctor that he knows what's wrong. Sean has a demon, and we've got ourselves in how did he put it? A storm.
Another one of those great Matt Berry, just ridiculously chewed up lines.
The doctor just looks at him like, everybody's got WebMD now. And by the way, I had to know, is WebMD, do they talk about demon possession? It's there.
Are you serious? That is a great find, Becky. I appreciate that you've let me know this, because I will definitely be checking that out tonight. Do they tell you that you're batshit crazy and call a psychiatrist, or do they give you advice?
I didn't do a deep dive in it because I was trying to finish my notes and get here in time to record this podcast.
Well, that's a rabbit hole I'll be jumping down tonight.
But when I went on WebMD, I hit search, links popped up, and then there were a few, some stuff below it, but it's like, do you think you might be possessed by a demon? There was some substance there. I didn't go to, like I said, I didn't go into a deep dive, but I had to know, is it really on WebMD? And it's there.
I want to believe that there's somebody out there that was like, well, I wasn't sure, but it's on WebMD and I trust science.
I support it. I think every
Hilarious.
especially now that I know that I'm being possessed by a ghoul in the winter,
There's
a frosty ghoul
possession on there as well, or curse. Oh man, that's hilarious.
We need to look for that.
I'm so glad you found that.
Is there anything else?
No, we can move on to the gym. The gym was great. And Nandor decides he's going to get Sean. He finds out he's had like a mild heart incident. It's not a heart attack, but the doctor says that his friend really he's got high blood pressure and he needs to take better care of himself. And, he would start with diet and exercise, which, I'd almost rather have a demon too. I'm right there with you, Sean. It's boring as hell, but Nandor's going to whip him into rude health, as he says. So then we're at the gym.
I titled this segment in my notes, if I were Sean, this is what I would look like. Because, I don't live the healthiest of lifestyles. Mandy knows I have a very unhealthy attachment to food. I'm an emotional eater, basically. And I felt Sean as Laszlo is trying to kill him on the treadmill, which is funny. I would not ask you to do a thing I wouldn't do myself. He's floating over the treadmill. And Sean is like somebody who's, this is probably the best example, but somebody who's being held at gunpoint by a gangster and they know they're about to go, but they're doing their best to save themselves or to,
You can see him slowly getting to the point where he's like, I'd just rather die.
But he's like, why don't we go to Jersey Mike's? Get a table and make a game plan. He's stalling.
Maybe get a foot long.
That is exactly what I would do. And then he ends up having another heart attack. And I thought this conversation with he and Laszlo was very sweet.
I want to say, though, before we move on, that literally is me and Eric, because we're in our late 40s and I'm really he's got a very high stress job. My job is no cakewalk some days. And, everybody, when we get to this point in life, you have to start thinking more about your health. And so we've been both trying to get back in the gym more and think more about our health, eating more low fat and things like that. But we literally left the gym last week and went immediately to Mexican food and had margaritas and nachos.
That is wonderful. But you know what? You went to the gym because that's where you're message. Light years ahead of me, because I think about it all the time. I think about not going and to eat after we're done here. I think about it all the time. But at least you're putting some effort into getting things to happen.
Honestly, not to get too serious, but we're moving into Sean's point, which was a beautiful one. I think that is kind of where we are all at, and where I am striving to find a balance is that losing weight is pretty easy for me. When that is my goal. If I, for whatever reason, my weird little brain picks my weight to hyperfixate on for X amount of time, it's like a game. I just think of it as like reaching a number, and it just, very easy for me to have the discipline for me to finally get to whatever that number is. But it's not sustainable. I've probably lost and gained the same 40 pounds 3 or 4 times since I was in my late 20s. And you just can't live like that forever. You have to live in this body. And you cannot live with that. Eventually, what happens every single time with me is I just get bored. I get to that number and then I'm like, well, I've done that. So now I'm bored and I just go all the way backslide to basically being a sloth that doesn't, moves 15 feet a day from my bed to my desk and just eats garbage all day long without doing anything. So I'm trying to find a balance there with both me and Eric. You don't have to give up everything, really anything completely. You just have to think more about moderation and build in healthier habits at the same time, but to a degree that it's something that you can live with. Like I know me, I'm not going to go to the gym 5 days a week. Never in this lifetime am I going to be the person that enjoys working out all the time. I like to read. I'm a very, sedentary person by nature. I'm really like in my own little world most of the time. So we're just trying to find a little bit of balance with that. Definitely we're not living like monks. We're not giving up everything. We're enjoying our Mexican food still.
Yeah, you and I got two totally different things from that, because I got like life is fleeting, savor every moment, live your life to the fullest.
For sure.
Like,
That's why I said it's not exactly the same. I do think in a real world scenario for most of us at this age, I would encourage us to not quite live like Sean.
do you?
But no, really and honestly, I think it was very sweet. Sean tells Laszlo, look, because Laszlo comes to the conclusion that, he has to face that his friend is mortal. And Sean really makes him feel better about that. He tells him, my dad died young, my granddad died young. I'm probably going to die young, but I live every moment. I really enjoy my life. I think that is beautiful. I just don't think that maybe could take it to the same degree that Sean does, where you're shoving a foot long down your throat.
Well, here's what I wrote in my notes. First, LOL at Nandor getting his hand stuck in the needle box.
In the hazmat box.
Charmaine's like, do you want to go get a snack? And then she's like, let's get this off your hand.
I was wondering if he was looking for a snack in the hazmat box, because isn't that where they put needles in there with blood?
That
on
is
them?
like, yeah, it's biohazard products, usually needles, because, you can get stuck, scalpels or whatever.
He really is a bit slow.
I thought it was great when Sean said he was going to die young and they're having this very sweet moment. But then he says, but there's nothing I can do about it. And I immediately was like, no, can't diet, can't exercise.
Right.
You're like, this is just, it's inevitable.
That's why I'm saying to anyone out there listening,
I get it.
that it was a beautiful sentiment, but I also think that for me, something that works, and I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because it is a struggle for me to stay in that road of building in healthier habits and staying motivated and keeping myself going to the gym at least a couple of times a week. I'm trying to eat more fiber, things like that. I don't want to get all boring or blah with everybody, but I think at our age, it's not a bad message to have.
Well, when I am lying in a hospital bed and I look at you and I say, did you talk to Mike about that thing? And if you do not produce a Jersey Mike's number 5 super sub with extra mayonnaise for me to eat before Darren gets back,
I can't promise anything, Becky, because unlike Laszlo, I am not ready to be blasé, and I can't deal with this place without you. You are stuck here as long as I am, so I'm no promises on that. I say that having had Firehouse 2 days in a row, fully dressed, bag of chips, all of that for my lunch.
I'm hungry now. So last thing I want to say about the hospital, I just realized I missed this in my original going through my notes. When the demon leaves because Kentucky is out and his bracket is busted. Yes, Eric, I said Kentucky. And he leaves and Nandor's like, did anyone else think that would have been more dramatic? And then all of a sudden he just explodes.
Ugh. Yeah, it was pretty gross.
And then Nandor's like, there it is.
Cool.
All right. Let us move on to part 2 of the episode, which I like to call Identity Crisis.
Wait, before you do, I have to bring up one more line. It was when Nandor had Sean at the gym and he said, pain is just weakness leaving the body. And Sean said, is pain also piss leaving your body? Because I think I pained my shorts a little.
That was a good one.
That reminded me of me and Eric, but in the opposite. Eric is the one. Eric, my husband, has coached every sport you could possibly think of. He's coached, before we ever had kids, he was coaching Little League. He's coached basketball, baseball, and he loves to try to coach me. And I am what they call winky fingers uncoachable. So it usually doesn't go very well for him.
I can see that, and I would probably throw punch him. The first part I call the shed dweller, because we're in Gizmo's shed, and I don't want to write out Guillermo in my notes, so I write Giz. And now I'm starting to call him Giz.
Oh my God, I hate it too. I'm so sorry, Guillermo, but I hate writing out Guillermo every week.
And then spell check is like, no, that's not a word. And I'm like, add it to the dictionary because it is a word. And they're like, no.
I'm doing freehand, and my writing already looks like chicken scratch anyway because I resent every second that it takes me to write anything out. So I'm so lazy. I'm such a lazy writer that I'm like, can I just call him G?
Yeah. Well, there's Laz, Nan, Colin Robinson is CR. I mean, you heard me call his dad, Laszlo's dad, Papa C, because I'm not writing out Roderick. Anyway. So I thought it was
weird that we don't work out. Weird. No one's going to believe it. Two such industrious individuals like me and you who are exhausted writing our 2 pages of notes once a week aren't out on treadmills.
The audience, all 4 of them are like, wow, surprise. Yeah. It all makes sense.
Yeah.
So Gizmo not having an office identity and Colin Robinson outside blowing leaves where there aren't any leaves. And Colin's like, well, not yet, there aren't.
Yeah. It's just proactively blowing leaves that aren't there.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And then I want to go through a few. So there's the barefoot guy, the dog lady, and Guillermo's like, I love it when she brings the dogs to the office and they piss everywhere. And he's got this smile on the face as the dog is peeing on him.
So did you think about who you were in the office? Who do you think you were? Because quite honestly, I think I have been at different times the barefoot guy and the dog lady.
I would think you more the barefoot lady.
It definitely was when I used to work for the company that did the tree planting for the electric company out here. And there was literally 2 other people in my office. I never wore shoes. And it grossed out grown men, like big, burly forestry dudes who were out in the woods chewing tobacco all day would come in and curl their lips up in disgust at my nasty feet walking around the office.
I am the loud laugher.
I'm shoeless right now. I just realized that.
I am too.
It's weird that shoeless guy. I've been the loud laugher too.
I didn't quite realize how loud my laugh was until I started being on podcasts. And not only is my laugh loud, but I kind of think it's terrible. I looked at Darren after listening to my first podcast with Mark and them on the vampire interview with the vampire. And I was like, why didn't anybody tell me I have such a terrible laugh?
I think you have a great laugh.
That's what he said. You have a beautiful laugh. I'm like, I love you.
I do think you have a great laugh. I think I sound like a dying hyena. And I say that because my son has told me you sound like a dying hyena.
People in our lives are so good to us.
They are. They do not know what they have.
Colin Robinson offers suggestions about who he can be and Gizmo's like, it's not a big deal. And Colin's like, I've worked in over 137 offices. It is a big deal. And then all of a sudden, Guillermo's at his work and who should sit beside him but Colin Robinson, who's going to, quote, winky fingers, help him like Nadja and Nandor did.
Yeah.
I hope eventually, or Laszlo, Nandor. I hope eventually Laszlo shows up thinking he's going to help.
He's the only one left that hasn't. Well, no, I mean, if you count when they had the office, no, that was really more about Sean when they had the office.
Train office.
Yeah, that was for Sean. That wasn't that just ended up helping Guillermo, but that was totally incidental.
I want to talk about Nadja being the office funny guy by accident all over that banana and Lisa's annoyance.
Oh, hold on, Becky, hold on. I'm sorry. I got to take this phone call. Hello? Kong, I have told you, I can't see you anymore. We're not even the same species. This is so unappealing. Okay, I'm doing a podcast. Gotta go. Bye-bye.
That is the best thing you could have done. How long? Okay, for those of you who cannot see what just happened, I'm thinking Mandy's like taking a call in the middle of this podcast and she pulls out a banana and just has the conversation you just heard. And before I saw the banana, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to edit all this out. But nope, I don't. That was great.
What you'll notice about this banana
is it looks like it's been through some things.
Did you notice? I've been waiting. That's why I came to get the notes. Becky had to make an edit to our notes tonight and print them out. And I had to run in there and get them because she was going to bring them to me and I didn't want her to see my banana phone. I actually have two. If you would like one, I could.
I'm not eating that. Not that one. Put that in some banana pudding.
Did you notice that Naja's banana got grosser and grosser and grosser the longer that the episode went on? Like at the beginning, it was like this bright, pretty yellow banana. And by the end, it looked kind of like my banana. It was all black and disgusting and beat up. I saw those on the counter when I was walking out. I was like, I got to do it.
That was great.
Thank you.
If I had an award for best podcast moment, that would win for
Thank
sure.
you.
That was great. I love Jacob asking Guillermo for the PowerPoint and Guillermo trying to be all cool. I got your PP right here in my hand.
Oh, I think we know who Guillermo is. Guillermo is the office suck up. That's who Guillermo
100%.
is.
But it's out of...
He just wants to be loved. I know he wants to be important to someone.
He needs the attention. But then Colin suggests that he be the piss guy. The guy really into piss.
Like every office has,
The piss guy. If we had a piss guy in our office, I don't want to know you.
Wow. I mean, I've had some weird dudes in my offices before. I don't think we've ever had a piss guy. And if we do, I don't want to know about it.
Same.
I had a guy that was obsessed with dolls once.
I figure you and he would have been best friends.
He was also, as Colin Robinson ended up, because Colin tells Guillermo that he thinks he's got his bag, and what he's going to be is he's going to be the repressed hothead. And Guillermo's like, whoa, who's that? And he's like, the guy that he's really quiet and nice, but every 2 or 3 weeks he just pops off and he gets really angry and explodes for no reason. This guy was also that guy, the doll guy.
Okay.
So I was very nice to him. When he left, I'd be talking.
I'll be quiet, but when he leave, I'll be talking again. I like that Guillermo ends up going with the office hothead and he's going to seize his moment.
He's a terrible cusser. He's such a bad cusser.
But he did get the F word out. He did.
He did. It was like, what the shit? It's like listening to a little kid.
Colin Robinson reached out and just socked him. That was some of the best comedic acting. I had to pause and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh and then come back to it because that was just brilliant.
Who is shocked that Colin Robinson is the office hothead? Like that definitely seems on brand for him to just snap one day. He's done that in the past.
Mm-hmm. I didn't see that coming. I thought for sure.
No, I thought he was going to let Guillermo was going to snap.
He was going to get Colin, or Giz was going to get his win. But then after, Colin Robinson's like, well, being the guy who got punched in the face is pretty cool identity. And Guillermo's like, no. So Guillermo gets up and he almost gets a win, and he almost gets the win and becomes maybe the office empathetic guy, the bigger guy. And then Colin Robinson beats the living shit out of him. Did you hear Guillermo's screams?
No, I didn't.
Go back and listen to his screams. They were probably added in post-production, but whoever did it, they're like a cross between a small child and like a older whiny person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that.
It's so good.
I think it's because I was focused on Naja and how much glee she was taking out of Colin, just beating the shit out of Guillermo for no reason. She doesn't know why. Why is it happening? She doesn't know. She just loves the chaos. And her in the background with the banana that she's like, and did you know it was a microphone too?
John Ralphio. I went straight to John Ralphio in Parks and Recreation. I was like, who did that remind me? I was like, oh, Nadia did a John Ralphio. I love it when she's like with her banana phone. Hello, I'd like to report an ass kicking. And Lisa in the background is like, just no.
That whole plot line was so funny, Becky. Like at first, like the first banana joke that Naja makes, Lisa's like, yeah, that's funny. Ha ha ha. And then like as it goes on and on, I feel like that's the progression of me and my new Winky Fingers friends that I've been like, that's how I make friends, is I just find this obscure, stupid joke and I'm just going to run it into the ground.
I think we all have a tendency to do that.
Yeah.
And when they're dragging Colin Robinson out, and he's like, "Don't you step to me. Don't you step to me." And I'm like
he's
this is
gangster.
the energy vampire that's supposed to be. Where has this Colin Robinson been
Yeah.
this entire 6 seasons?
Oh, he twinkles out sometimes.
And he doesn't know why he did it again and again. He kind of just lost track. But it felt fucking fantastic.
And that's kind of a theme with Colin Robinson too, is just like not really understanding anything about himself or where he comes from or who he is, anything. They're carrying that all the way through with this character.
I'm concerned about some of the things that Jacob said to Guillermo, but before we get to that, I think it's so sad. Guillermo says Colin Robinson beating the crap out of him was the best thing that could have happened to him at work.
I know. I hate it. I mean, I enjoy it, but this storyline, I'm wondering where they're going with this. I'm curious to see. I'm a little worried
Is he going to
Guillermo's
jail?
going to end up in trouble. Yeah, I'm a little worried that like whatever it is that his loyalty and his need to be praised and be the guy for somebody is leading him to be taken advantage of, and that he's going to end up getting himself into a situation where they're going to try to pin some shady stuff on him. Yeah. I want to go back a little bit. Like when they were, I hate these people. Oh no, I know we've talked about it in past episodes, but this whole pack of people at Camp Capital.
Oh, the dude's pants.
Yes, when he's like trying to get Guillermo to tell him whether or not you could see his dick through his pants, and Guillermo's like, "No, you can't." He's like, "I wanted you to be able to see." I hate that guy. But Lisa, did you notice when they were talking about trying to get the numbers down and make it exciting? She's like, "Oh, I tell you what could be really exciting is we'll fire half the workforce." And she wasn't even doing it for like 1 or 2 percentage points for profit. It was like 0.1% of a percentage point. She's just ready to fire half the workforce for the, yeah.
That made me feel okay that Nadja was getting on her nerves.
Oh, for sure. I kind of hope the end of this episode is the vampires get bored with playing Office and they just take out everybody.
Except for Guillermo. I could be for that. I am glad that Guillermo found his identity as the tight vault guy, and how Jacob is like, no, just vault guy.
This vault guy. He's not vault guy though. He's kiss ass guy.
I know, but Guillermo thinks he's got something. I'm going to give him this win because I think he's about to go to jail for these people.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about that. I don't think the vampires will let that happen. But
if he ends up in jail at the end of this series, like they did on the Seinfeld show, I'm going to be furious.
I will riot. I don't think they'd do that.
I hope not, but would they think it would be funny?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they do have some dark humor sometimes, but I really think that they have enough heart and enough vision. I don't think that's how they'll end it.
Okay, I'm going to take your word for it. So that's all I have about Guillermo. And do you have anything else to add on that?
No, I think we've covered almost everything except, the end when Nandor is deciding he's going to shoot a shot with the guide.
I titled part 3, Netflix and Chill.
That's great. I like this thing you're doing.
Thank you. As soon as he was like talking about going to see the guide and how he's going to maybe make out with her, I was like, Nandor is wanting to Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
He gets there and Jerry answers the door and he just says, "Are those for me?" And takes his flowers. Nandor has no game
None
whatsoever. But why did Jerry think he was bringing him the flowers? He has the most punchable face. Yeah, he really does. And he was very punchable there. And I do think that that's part of that whole character is that he literally lives only to take over North America. So in his mind, why wouldn't Nandor just bring him flowers and then get the hell out of here so he can go back to trying to take over North America?
And they did leave him asleep in his coffin for a long time. So maybe Jerry sees that as a sorry.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't even think it's that deep. I think genuinely Jerry has got such a one-track mind that he is like, my mission is to take over North America, and that's all that matters. Answering this door slowed me down from having to go and do my plans.
I hope the guide and Nandor are in game. I don't think it's Guillermo, and I don't.
I could live with that.
I feel like they're setting us up for some happy endings.
Because the guy definitely has been shafted.
And she's great.
I love that actress, and her name again is slipped right out of my head, but she is so many of my favorite characters. She's Mabel from Gravity Falls. I love The Guide. She's Louise Belcher from
Bob's
Bob's Burgers.
Did you see her on Last Man on Earth?
Ava loved that show. Believe it or not, Ava was only about 12 when that show came on. It was not my cup of tea, but for whatever reason, she loved that show. She had to watch it every single week. And she was the best part of that for me.
I forget who played the main guy. He's funny, but he's a little too much. I think I feel about him the way you feel about Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I could see that. He has another one of those faces that weirds me out, and I can never get his name to stick in my head either. Bill Hader? No, he's not Bill Hader.
Bill Hader is the one in Trainwreck that I told you. I remember watching that movie and texting you and being like, when did Bill Hader
get hot?
Because wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I like Bill Hader. I feel like that guy is the poor man's Bill Hader, and I've just never really he's not my cup of tea. But Ava, man, she loved that show. And I did really love seeing that. I am so mad at myself that I can't remember what her name is, but yeah, she was the best part of that show.
I'm way too lazy to pick up my phone and Google it, so we'll look it up later.
Well, just do that right now. Hello? Google.
Banana's back. She's talking to Google.
I'm appealing to you for search results.
Oh my gosh, I love that you brought a banana. That's epic.
I brought two.
Anything else on this episode?
No, I think we've gone over everything and then some. Kristen Shaw. Oh, as I am certain you're going to be listening to this with bated breath. I am so sorry because you are an amazing actress. I love you and everything you do. You're wonderful. And I hope I will even bend on wanting Guillermo and Nandor to end up together if it means the Guide gets a happy ending, because she definitely deserved it. She has done everything for them. She was Naja's assistant for that whole season. You know, remember when she had to kidnap them because she was mad because they kept leaving her out of everything and all she wanted to do was be their friend.
And they show her 20 seconds of tape where Laszlo says like 5 nice things about her, but insulting her. It's like a backhanded compliment. And she's like, okay, we're cool.
All right. So are we moving on to feedback now?
Let's move on to feedback.
We have got a live Steve, Winky Fingers, live Steve voicemail from Steve Brown. Let's hear his reactions to the episode.
Hello, Becky and Mandy. This is Steve, and this is for What We Do in the Shadows, March Madness. A basketball episode? Or, man, they're all over the place with their dates and holidays, aren't they? Oh, Laszlo breaking down the door to get into Sean's place. She said March Madness, the title of the episode. Mic drop. And then March Madness again, more mics dropping. Ew, the office barefoot guy? Ew, and the dog person peeing on Guillermo's? Ew, the same guy. Office Mexican, office gay, office slut. Guillermo, gotta find your office identity, buddy. I love it. The demon knows what March Madness is, and he's asking questions about who's in, who's out, who's got their Cinderella story. Oh, office hothead guy just got punched by HR guy, Colin Robinson. Wait a minute, this is what? Office identity. The doctor coming in and looking around at the cameras, and now Laszlo's trying to explain to him that Sean's got a demon in him. Oh, and the demon just exploded in the hallway. That's his journey back to hell, I guess. Oh, you're not just punching him, Colin. You're punching him over and over. Wow, Colin Robinson. Hey, Sean, I like Jersey Mike's too. I haven't had Jersey Mike's in a while. I need to do that tomorrow. Oh, now Charmaine's going to think that Nandor is falling for her. Or is he falling for her? Laszlo brought him a Jersey Mike's sandwich. I love it. Oh, we're about to find out that Cannon is not on the up and up. And he got his office identity, the vault. Love it. I don't know how this season's going to end, but it's going along great.
That was awesome. I hope that Jersey Mike sub is delicious.
Thank you so much, Steve. We always appreciate hearing from you.
Yes, very much so. So we got an email, our first ever email from my friend Amy, who I mentioned earlier in this episode. She sent us an email because she actually watched this episode simply because it was titled March Madness. But here are her thoughts. Okay, I'm not familiar with the characters, so forgive me. 1, I love the guy that got the shit beat out of him, the vault. Number two, I have been where Sean is in this episode. I broke a lot of remotes in my 30s because of some 18-year-olds. I told y'all it does feel like you were possessed by a demon when you catch yourself pulling for hashtag Lehigh or pulling for the University of South Dakota Jackrabbits to be Kentucky. Yes. Nothing sucks more than your bracket being busted on the first day. Hashtag thoughts by box. I want to explain a couple of things here. Several years ago, Duke got knocked out in the first hit round by hashtag Lehigh. And Amy and I talked to each other in hashtags. And so that's whatever a team that loses that shouldn't have lost. Hashtag Lehigh is our thing. So tell Eric next time Kentucky loses to a crappy team and I text him hashtag Lehigh, that's what that means.
I'll let him know.
And she's a big Matchbox 20 fan. And I just started calling her Box. And so that's what hashtag thoughts by box is. Thank you, Amos Davis, for writing in and for watching the show and for listening to all of these podcasts. Even though you don't normally watch the show, you are my boo and I love you. Keep the feedback coming. If you would like to leave us some feedback or just say, hey, you can email us or send a voice message as an attachment to what's on tonight 2@gmail.com. That's what's on tonight and the number 2@gmail.com. You can visit our Facebook page where there will be a post for the next episode. You can leave feedback in the comment section or send us a message through Facebook Messenger. We can also be found on Instagram at What's On Tonight Podcast 2, at What's On Tonight Podcast and the number 2. We would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a review, comment, and or share on your podcast listening app of choice.
Next week, we'll continue our coverage of What We Do in the Shadows, Season 6, Episode 8, entitled P.I. Undercover New York.
I cannot wait.
Oh, man, that sounds good.
It does. So where else can listeners hear us and any podcast recommendations? We'll start with you, Mandy.
Well, as I said, I don't do a lot of podcasts, but something that this episode reminded me of is a show that I don't think got nearly as much love as it should have when it originally came on. I think it's on Netflix now. You could Google it. It's definitely on one of the streamers, but it's called Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell.
Oh.
And it is about hell, but all of the demons. So basically, it's like if Canon Capital were hell. Satan is this obnoxious manager who treats all of his under demons like, they're his slaves, and he tortures them. They torture. It's very, very funny. One of my favorite comedians, Henry Zabrowski, plays one of the lowest level employees in hell. And it's very irreverent. You have to have a real high threshold for comedy that might be blasphemous, might be a little bit tweaking of your religion. You have to have a real high threshold for language too. But if you aren't easily offended by those two things, I really, really recommend that you check it out. But the second thing I would like is, Becky, I brought you a gift this evening.
Yes, you did. I'm scared. This is a banana.
I purchased this. Don't open it yet. I purchased this for you the day after the election when, Ava and I, my daughter, were going and doing some retail therapy to cheer us up. I saw this and I immediately thought of you. But again, before you open it, the reason I haven't brought it to you until now is because I thought that I had lost it. I couldn't find it anywhere when I was getting ready to come last week. I was really upset about it. Where I did find it, when I was so excited, was when Eric and I were at Costco this weekend. So I had apparently put it in one of our reusable totes that I brought to Costco, and I pulled it out just when the lady was getting ready to ring up all of our purchases at Costco. So now you can open it.
Drum roll. Gross!
That's not what the lady at Costco said.
Oh, it is a candy G-string. I can't wait to call Darren.
Hey, I imagine Darren's gonna enjoy dessert this evening. I don't know why you're saying gross. It looks delicious. It's the candy that used to have
Amy
candy
Poehler,
necklaces.
Leslie Knope likes the candy necklaces
string
and
that you wear.
bracelets, but this time it's a pair of underwear. Hey, one size fits most. I hope I'm most.
I don't need photos, but I'm just saying a thank you card.
Oh, if I
would
put
go
this
amiss.
on, you're getting a photo.
Oh no, it's going to replace the other photo that you like to randomly send me.
Oh, I miss having that photo. I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, thank
no
you so much.
You're very welcome.
I will eat this though, legit.
I might be sharing it with you.
It would be, y'all wonder what we're doing later. We're eating a candy G-string. Oh, that's great. I can be heard on Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, Panels to Pixels Podcast, and here on What's On Tonight Podcast. As far as recommendations, Podtastic is the Cast of Us episode covering the 2014 movie What We Do in the Shadows did come out this past week, and it's awesome. They also did a segment on the episode where they had the listeners and the podcasters themselves talked about 5 things that we do to cheer ourselves up. And it's a fun listen. I gave my list of 5. Onto podtastica.com, and you can find that episode and episodes of other great shows they cover, like Welcome to the Apocalypse. I think you would really like this one, Mandy, and you should give it a try. They improvise the entire episode. It's 3 characters going through the apocalypse
that sounds funny.
together.
I have to tell my mom about that. She loves improv comedy.
It's good. Have her go to podtastica.com. There's a lot of good content on that website.
Good deal.
I want to give a big thank you to Mark and Pirate Corp Entertainment for giving us this platform, and especially for all of the help you give in helping us get these podcasts put together and released. Please visit the Pirate Corp's website. It can be found on our Facebook page, and you can find our podcast as well as other podcasts. Billy and Will just released their 2nd episode of the Slay Lounge podcast, and on this one, they covered the first episode in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series, Welcome to the Hellmouth. It's a good one. I listened to it, so please check it out.
Well, that's going to wrap up our coverage of episode 7 of the final season of What We Do in the Shadows. Oh, it's getting close.
No. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm Becky, and I'm about to go eat a candy G-string.
And I'm Mandy, and I may be helping her.
We'll catch you next week when we grab the remote and see what's on tonight. Bye.
Bye.